I knew how toxic my behavior was and how it was pushing him away. But it was like a compulsion, like almost an addiction. It's like, I can't stop myself. And he kept saying, oh, you think because you own this place, you can, order me around. He'd sit in the living room with the television on really loud and then refuse to come to bed. And so he kept saying, you want me to be your pet. I'm not your pet, And I'd been doing, very toxic things. I was, for example, on my husband's electronic devices, searching for pain, shopping for pain, like you say. He flipped it back on me. And he started accusing me of being, having unfaithful thoughts and behaving inappropriately around men.
Warning, listening to this podcast is going to make your marriage irresistible. Whether you're exhausted from carrying everything and just want him to step up, or you're lonely and longing to feel close and adored again, that's totally fixable. I'm Laura Doyle, creator of the 6 Intimacy Skills. And for 27 years, I've been watching women go from burnt out and disconnected to having the passionate, easy marriage they always wanted. Love is learnable. The secrets are real. And this is where I teach them. I'm so glad you're here. Stay to the end for your Try It Tonight takeaway. Real women, real marriages. This is the Empowered Wife Podcast. Emily, welcome to the Empowered Wife Podcast. I'm so excited that you're here. So excited to have you.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you, Laura. I can't believe I'm here. Thank you.
Well, I'm excited to hear your whole story. So let's start from when you first fell in love. How did you know your husband was the one?
Yeah, it's such a good question. I like to tell him all the time, he ticked all my boxes. I had this kind of inner list of things that I was looking for. And I didn't even realize I had the list because at the time when we got together, I wasn't looking for a boyfriend. I decided to become a nun. Can you believe it? I kept giving up men altogether. But when I met him, or when I got to know him better, because we already had been friends for about 3 years, I realized that in him, these qualities that I had been subconsciously looking for, that I thought, wow, that he embodies those qualities. The first one was his faith, strong man of faith, strong moral compass, very kind of leader type personality. And also he was musical. That was important for me because I wanted to, I'm quite musical, my family is. And so I realized, as again, I didn't have like a list. I wasn't one of those people that had a conscious list. It was all subconscious, inside of me, what I was looking for. And so, yeah, he was musical, very intelligent, extremely intelligent. And he had smiley eyes. And that was my number one thing.
Oh, he sounds like a great guy, great leader, man of faith, musical, and then of course smiley eyes.
Yes.
So you fell in love, and then you guys decided to get married.
Yes, we did. We got married. My family was not happy about it because he lives in South America. I'd come to South America, to the country where we still live, in 2005. And the intention really was just to come and visit a friend because I'd been here before in 2002. I'd met him in 2002. We'd just been friends. And then when I came back in 2005, it was supposed to be a short trip. I was supposed to be 3 weeks, 3 weeks here. Now here, 21 years later, I'm still here. So that was lovely. And so, as I said, we just really, the love blossomed and it was so beautiful. I hadn't been looking for it, but I was obviously open to it. And so I told my mother, I said, look, I'm not going to come home and finish my university degree yet. I didn't say I'll never finish it. I said, well, I want to stay. I want to start a business. I've fallen in love and I'm going to stay. I was only 22 at the time. I think she was horrified by it. Yeah. She was totally horrified. And she said, well, if you do that, Emily, at first you must not do this. You should know, you must come back immediately and finish your degree and everything. But she said, if you do not come back, then I will cut off all financial support from you, And so that was a big blow. And I didn't have any means of supporting myself. I'd never really worked professionally. I mean, I'd worked a little bit, but not enough to support myself. And so I was only 22 and hadn't finished my degree, but I just knew that I had to do it. I couldn't turn my back on love. I couldn't, I knew I'd regret it for the rest of my life if I allowed her to, bully me into coming back home. So, decided to stay, and my husband and I, we opened a language and music school together. Started to work together. I was teaching English, and I had no idea of teaching English. I just stood up next to the whiteboard and did whatever came into my head. It was really kind of amateur, but I loved it, and I eventually got books and became more organized and studied about it. So I was grew into it, but it was just an adventure. It was such an adventure. It was amazing.
And it sounds so romantic, right? Like it's got all the drama of like your mother doesn't approve. You're supposed to come home now and finish your degree, and your heart wouldn't let you do it.
No,
your heart was telling you.
Yeah, I couldn't. I thought I knew that the relationship wouldn't stand, a separation at that stage. It was too early on, far too early on. And then, in fact, a year and a half later, I went back to university. I had an awful year. I went back. We were separated for, the time I was at university, that academic year. Suffered terribly, but we got through it, were able to do it at that stage. But I knew at the beginning I had to stay, and I'm really thankful I did.
Oh, your mother must have been so happy that you did finish that degree.
Yes, she was very thankful. I didn't tell her. She bought me a one-way ticket home. It was so funny. And because I said I was coming home to visit, and she very deliberately bought a single ticket for me to come back home.
There aren't two of these. There's only one of them. Like he's not really welcome. Sounds like.
Yeah. Oh. And so then when I was on the bus on the way back to my mother's house, I said, well, actually, I've come home to finish my degree, and it was a big surprise for her. So she was very thankful for it.
Wow. So apart from the year of separation, which was difficult, of course, but it sounds blissful in your relationship.
Yeah, we had a happy time at the beginning. I think it was just the adventure of it, being so young, starting a business together, having the joy of teaching, love teaching, and getting on so well. People say it's hard to work with your significant other, but we love working together. And we had a community around us, the students and mainly students, really. They were our friends. And yeah, it was a really exciting time. That's right.
That sounds great. So when did things start to feel more challenging?
Yeah, more difficult. I mean, we did have our ups and downs. I always had that controlling streak. I was always on his paper. But I think at the beginning, he didn't really notice it so much because we were both so busy and we were both so happy in what we were doing. So he had more tolerance, I suppose, for my controlling outbursts sometimes. So it wasn't that we were absent of conflict, but it was just that I think things were going so well. So it wasn't an issue, So that was the early days. So we worked together on that business for 7 years. 7 years we did that, and that was amazing. It was a dream. And then we felt moved to go to Bolivia to do like a short-term mission to outreach there. So that was an adventure as well. We went over the Andes in a very small car and almost got, thrown off them several times. It was real exciting. And so all of it was adventure. And the first 7 years and the trip to Bolivia, we went 3 trips to Bolivia, and then we went back in between. But then finally we had to go back to the country where my husband's from because of his issues with his degree. So he had to finish. He'd been studying as well. He was a musician. His first degree was in music. And then about age 30, 35, he said, I want to, try to become a lawyer. And so he went back to university while we were working on our business, but he kind of studied part-time and he worked part-time. But then after we'd been in Bolivia, he realized, okay, I've got to get this law degree finished. So he'd finished all the studying, but he had to do the practical experience part. And that was really hard because all our adventures and all the joy of doing what we loved, it kind of sort of came to a halt. And we went back to his country of origin, and He had a really hard time when he was doing his practical work experience to become a lawyer, and it's like when he's such a talented man, so intelligent and very hardworking, he'll do everything to the letter. He really is so hardworking. And other people in the office were not the same, and so that creates tension, of course. And another thing that happened when we went back to this country is that his daughter, he has a daughter who is, I'll try to give you a timeline to give you a bit of a context of it all. He became a father at the age of 19. So he was a very young father. And he really embraced it. He said it was the happiest day of his life when he became a father, even though it wasn't expected and all that, but he just loved it. And then his ex-girlfriend, who was the mother of his daughter, she just couldn't cope at all. I mean, she was 19 as well. So I don't judge her, but she just couldn't cope with motherhood. So finally, my husband ended up getting full custody of his daughter at the age of about 21, which is so unusual, in this country, in this culture. It's for a man to get full custody. So for many years, he brought up his daughter with his mother. They all lived together. And when he and I got together, his daughter was 13. He's 10 years older than me, and he was a father so young. So that's why his daughter is quite a lot older. She's only 9 years younger than me, which is kind of a bit challenging. It's hard for her to accept me being so young and her being so insecure, having kind of lost her mother in a way from a young age. She'd suffered a lot. Anyway, so when we came back to this country where we live now, and he was having all this trouble with his law degree, work experience, his daughter, who at that time was 20 years old, she developed bipolar disorder. So that was really, really hard because, we didn't know what to do. We felt so powerless and, trying to navigate the system and the health system, really difficult. So we had all these pressures on us, at that time, so many pressures, no longer adventures and freedom and joy and all this kind of we finally had to settle down, grow up, This is really, really hard. And it was at that time that my controlling behavior came out much more strongly, that he started to notice it more and things really started to kind of bubble up to the surface. And I think just because we were both so unhappy, it was really difficult. Yeah.
Yeah. Some scary situations, painful situations, frustrating too, right? And you mentioned feeling powerless. So, control kind of gives you the illusion
Yeah.
of power. So, it's like this mere mortal woman wouldn't want to feel some power in that situation. So, yeah.
It's,
Wow. So, so this is where, and the way you describe it, it does sound fairly dreary, right? Real life. It's time to grow up now. There's no more adventure. So how was this causing fights or disagreements? Or,
big arguments. I think the other big factor that came in at that point was that, on the face of it, you think it's a really positive thing, but it turned out to be really challenging. Was that my mother? She gave me a large amount of money for us to buy an apartment, so we could buy somewhere to live. And you think, wow, okay, all these years of scraping by and making a living, living on the poverty line, you think it would be great, wouldn't it? Finally got a place to live rent free.
Yeah.
But it turned out to be just such a hard thing because when we're in the apartment where we lived, which now belonged to me, because my husband insisted on putting it in my name because, he's got a daughter and he said, oh, if anything happens to me, you'll end up homeless and whatever. So he was worried about, me in long term. So he was really lovely and he said, put it in your name. And I said, well, it's our apartment. It's not mine. I never saw it as mine. But in his mind, he suddenly started to link my ownership of the apartment with my controlling behavior. And he kept saying things like, oh, you think because you own this place, you can, order me around, and reacting much, much more strongly. It was his kind of fixed idea. which was extremely painful. I kept saying, it's not that. I mean, consciously, also conscious. I never thought that wasn't the reason I was being controlling. It was just it was my nature. And it wasn't much better. And so I was just fighting with myself all the time because I knew how toxic my behavior was and how it was pushing him away. And I was fully aware of it because I'd been on the receiving end of it because my mother and my grandfather, actually, that's where she got it from. They're also very controlling people. And so I know what it's like to be controlled and belittled and, demeaned and manipulated and all that. And I hate it. And then I see myself doing the same thing. I'm like, Emily, stop. What are you doing? But it was like a compulsion, like almost an addiction. It's like, I can't stop myself. You're like, bat away the hand, like, stop it, Emily, what are you doing? I felt powerless, and I kept weeping, weeping in pain at my own behavior. Really, it's strange, really, to talk about it, but
I relate to it so much, though. Yeah, I remember seeing my own behavior and being quite terrified and wanting to stop and not knowing how to stop at all. It's the worst feeling.
It's true.
Very
And then
painful.
I had apologies. Well, not really apologies, and they made things so much worse. My apologies, in fact, they were pleas for forgiveness. It was more like, I realized as soon as these horrible words had come out of my mouth, which were born of frustration and resentment, anger and all this, as soon as they came out of my mouth and I heard them, I realized, oh, Emily, what are you saying? Stop it, and I would repent. I would really, really sincerely be sorry for what I just said. Honestly. And I would say to him, please forgive me, please. And I'd follow him around the apartment trying to beg him and force him to forgive me before he was ready. And that just made things so much worse. And he hated me apologizing in that way. It wasn't really an apology. It wasn't a Laura Doyle apology. It was like a manipulation tactic, really. So that made things a lot worse.
Oh, gosh, it's so frustrating and so lonely. Sounds very lonely.
That's right. That's the thing. I think that's what made it so much worse, is that we were so alone, because we'd lost our community where we used to teach all our students who were our friends. We didn't have any support, of course, of my mother, because she'd been against us from the beginning. His mother was pretty, I don't think she ever, well, she did towards the end. She warmed to me, but at the beginning especially, she really didn't like me. My stepdaughter hated me. And so we were very alone, and so all that, it feels much more intense, isn't it, when you're so alone?
Very much. Yeah. And then I just remember that period of wanting the forgiveness, wanting things to be okay, wanting the reassurance that I'm still loved and feeling terribly alone. So, yeah.
Something all the wrong way. And so we would just, and it wasn't all the time. We did have good points too, good times as well. But for me, in those moments when he was, like, in my eyes, refusing to forgive me, I just felt like in the depths of despair. I couldn't relativize it. I couldn't put it in perspective. I couldn't take a step back. I was just in that just pain, weeping all the time. And it was awful. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's sad.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So, well, what happened then?
Well, it was amazing, Laura. It was just such a godsend. One of these nights when I was just again weeping and repenting and begging for forgiveness and feeling such an awful person and failure as a wife and all that, I suddenly realized, I thought, oh, Emily, the reason why maybe you're having these troubles is that you've never had a healthy marriage or a kind of healthy wife. Because my father was a lovely person. My parents did have a good marriage, but my mother was so controlling. And so I thought, I've never seen it modeled, I just had that realization. I suppose I was able to give myself a bit of grace and thought, oh, maybe the reason I keep failing is that I've never seen it done properly. I've never been taught. I've never learned.
What a great insight.
It was helpful. And then I picked up my Kindle. I had an Amazon Kindle, the ebook. And I started to pray, and I thought, maybe I can get a book. Maybe there's some book will teach me. I thought maybe I can learn. So I typed in some words, and then the surrendered wife, it popped up. It was such a godsend. That title, I know for other people it might put them off, but for me it was the perfect title. It's what I needed to learn. It was Really, 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 really just perfect for me at that time.
You weren't put off by the idea of being a surrendered wife?
Oh, no, I was longing for, really longing for. So yeah, it was so helpful.
Wow.
Yes, it was.
Glad we found each
Mm.
other. So good.
Yes, it was amazing. That was quite a while ago. I'm trying to get the timeline. I think it must have been about 2015. So quite a while back. And so yeah, so I read that book and I found it really helpful. And I started on the skill of relinquishing control, just let it go, let it go, let it go. Because at that time, that one of the big blow ups that we had, it was awful. It's going to sound really petty and insignificant, but for me, it was a massive thing. Was that my husband changed our daily nighttime routine? Sounds ridiculous. It's like, oh, you're
No,
totally.
it's not ridiculous at all. Like, yeah, I can totally relate. Like a creature of habit here. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I used to love it because in the evenings, I mean, even if we'd had these difficult days, we'd have in the evenings before we went to sleep, we'd have a moment of connection and we'd read the Bible and we'd pray. And it was like a solace for me. It was like it was filling up my cup. It was really healing for me at the end of the difficult days. And then my husband went and bought a television, which I was like, ooh, television is on. People are like, what television? So, we hadn't had one before because, we've been all over the place. And so he'd sit in the living room with the television on really loud and then refuse to come to bed. And I would just dig my heels in and ask in all the wrong ways and just insist and nag him and bully him and have tantrums, and they were awful. And it didn't work, and he refused to comply. And I'm quite pleased that she did, because he wouldn't allow himself to be manipulated by me. He wouldn't allow himself. He kept saying, you want me to be your pet. I'm not your pet, you know. And it was so hard for me, and none of my, tricks of the trade, manipulative tricks. I wasn't trying to be manipulative. It was just my pain, trying to get him come to bed. I really appreciate this time. I wasn't able to express it as a pure desire in a healthy way at all. I wasn't able to say how much it was meant to me. And so, anyway, so these like nightly fights were so painful. So that was after one of those fights. In fact, when I found your book, so my first step was relinquishing control of the nighttime routine. Look after myself. I'll read the Bible. I will pray. I will just try and find peace on my own and let him come. If he comes, fine, great. If he doesn't, that's fine. So that was the first step. Really, yes.
Wow. I mean, that takes some courage, because I think in a situation like that, it can be easy to tell yourself, well, he doesn't care about me. He won't do what I want. So he must not love me. And having to, soothe yourself can be a long way to go, a big stretch. So you found this, you decided to do this, though. It sounds like a very deliberate decision to
Mm.
give yourself the part you were missing.
I needed to do that. That's right, because I thought I can't keep on this nightly. It's just so stressful for both of us. It's just not. It was ruining our intimacy at all times of the day, basically. So, yeah, and the book, it came at just the perfect time, just really the perfect time, because soon after that, my husband just kind of announced to me, we're moving. We're going to move. We're moving. And in fact, it
Not,
was
would you like to
really.
move? But we're moving on.
We're moving. Yes. He said, I think, God wants us to sell this apartment and move. And I'm like, okay, right. Whatever you think. So,
Oh,
so that would have been a big stretch. I don't think I could have got to that place without the book, really, to be able to
you-
relinquish control of such a big thing. That would have been.
you're very surrendered about the move.
I was about to be surrendered. And in fact, it was the perfect thing. It was really hard and so stressful. And all at once, I could have coped with it if it'd been given a bit of time. But literally, we had like 10 days, right? We're selling this apartment. We found a vendor. We hadn't even put it on the market. I didn't think about moving. But somebody turned up on the doorstep, a friend of a friend, and she said, I've got so much amount of money. I'm looking to buy an apartment in this building. And my husband said, I think this is God sending this person so we can sell this apartment and move out of this city, to move away. And in fact, it made a lot of sense, because we had not been happy in that city. We'd had so many struggles, and we wanted to go back to the north of the country where we'd been so happy. near where
This
we
was
lived.
the apartment that was in your name
It was
only,
in my name.
and it was part of the stress.
Stress,
Wow.
true. Yeah, yeah. So all those things, in fact, were really positive. At the time, it was so stressful and sudden. It was hard for me to take it in, really, to think, because I hate moves. I really hate moving, and I've moved so much in my life, at least 11 or 12 times, maybe 15 times, like big moves, different countries, continents, cities. Hate it. And so it's just as a, as a person who likes order and routine and things to be predictable, it's really hard. But I was able to surrender it because I'd read the book and I thought, okay, whatever you think, and it worked out really beautifully. So I feel
Wow.
like Laura.
You took to it like a duck to water, it sounds like.
Yeah,
You're
I was like dying for it. I was like, okay, somebody sent me some help. And so
That is so courageous. You did a beautiful job.
it was great. Thank you.
So you moved to the north?
Yes, we moved to the north, and then after that, very, very interesting period of our lives, when we went through a period of, how can we call it? Thing I hadn't mentioned before, we'd been in a cult. We'd been in a, we'd been in a high controlling religious group. Some people call it a cult. Maybe the word cult's a bit too strong, but it was a very, very toxic religious group. And then when we went up north, we were able to get some distance from it as well and realized, that it was really bad for us and it wasn't, according to the Bible, and it wasn't healthy group. And we were able to kind of heal from that, that experience, which was really helpful. So that was between like 2016, 2020. I particularly went through a big deep dive of finding resources, reaching out to other ex-members and survivors of the group, and just really getting a lot of healing for that during that time. So that was a really beautiful time, very nice, and we were united. And my husband, by that point, had already become a full-fledged lawyer, so he was working and he felt fulfilled, and so things were happier during that time. So that was really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Sounds like it was such a good move.
Yes, it was. It was a completely good move. And in the city where we moved up north, where we live now, we had friends, and the weather is much nicer because my husband, he suffers from seasonal affective disorder, SAD. That when you get affected by the weather, and so where we live up north, much sunnier and nicer, and so he became a lot happier as well. So it was, yeah,
Great.
it was,
So many benefits to that move.
yes, it was very helpful.
So how was your marriage around this time
Well,
then?
the marriage around that time was okay. It was good, ups and downs as usual, but I think we were doing pretty well. But then 2020, the pandemic affected all of us. It was just so awful. And I think marriage-wise, we weren't in a bad place. But then my dear stepdaughter again had another psychotic breakdown. And so, I think so many people were affected, weren't they, by mental health disorders in 2020. She already had bipolar disorder, but she'd been stable for years and doing really well. And then she got married, and she had by this point 2 children. But then in the pandemic, she just broke down and lost her sanity again. That was again all these pressures that come, isn't it? And it really affect you. And the hardest thing for us is that her daughter, her eldest daughter, at that point was 10 years old, witnessed her mother losing her mind. She was there to see it, and it was so traumatic for her. Really, really, really awful. And so she didn't even want to speak to her mother again. She was very angry at her mother because her mother had acted in a kind of violent way. Oh my goodness. So we knew we just had to fly down there because they live in the center of the country. We lived up north, a long way away. And so we had to fly down, swoop in there, take care of her oldest daughter. Her youngest daughter was just 9 months old, baby. Oh, it was so hard. She was looked after by her father and his family because my stepdaughter's husband and his family, they stepped in to help to look after the baby. But we need to be there for the elder daughter who was 10. And so we found ourselves in the middle of the pandemic, not ever having, or me never having been a mother, never having any training in mothering skills, and and I was kind of launched into, people have called it pandemic parenting. It was making sure she was on her online classes because she'd rather sleep through them, and getting her fed and nourished, and she was already suffering trauma, and that was just such a stress. So that made everything else flare up, and I think my latent, dormant, controlling tendencies, they all reared their ugly heads. They were.
You're under a lot of pressure.
It was a
Yeah.
lot of pressure. It was really hard. And so that put a massive strain on the marriage, of course, as you can imagine, because I had by no means become an expert in the skills. I'd read the book and it'd been so helpful, and I'd implemented it, and it'd been very key in that transitional time, but I hadn't sort of kept up with it. I hadn't. I'd read other books and they'd been really helpful, but I didn't have the skills really integrated into me. I was just sort of kind of fumbling along.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
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 I can relate to that too.
It was
Not be able to keep them up. Yeah.
yeah, that's right. It was very,
Yeah.
very hard. And then eventually my stepdaughter's daughter, I can call her my step granddaughter. There is a word, but yeah, I just love her so much. But she eventually, after she'd been with us about a year, she was reconciled with her mother, and she was able to go back to her mother, which was, much better for her, to be healed in that area, and to
Probably
come
a
back to
relief
her.
for you as well.
In a way,
Imagine.
because it had been a lot of stress, yeah, and it brought out the worst in me, and I'd always feared, to be honest, I'd always feared that I'd be a terrible mother because I'm so controlling, and then I had the opportunity to try, and it was true. I was like, ah.
Well, not the same opportunity, right? I mean, there was some that opportunity came with a lot of pressure to it. So, yeah.
See, it says it wasn't a normal situation, but I just thought, oh, I'm a failure. I can't do this. I felt really awful. So yeah, when she left, it was kind of bittersweet, mixed feelings. On one hand, like, okay, I'm glad that she's reconciled with her mother. I really hope that goes well. But on the other hand, like, I kind of had to fight that feeling of feeling a failure. I really fought it because it was kind of creeping up on me. I had not been good enough. Yeah, it was
Oh, oh, it
custom
sounds
idea.
a little harsh
Yeah, it was very hard. It
on
was really
yourself.
difficult.
Yeah.
It was difficult, and I think other issues came up in the marriage that I'd been doing, very toxic things. I was, for example, on my husband's um electronic devices, searching for pain, shopping for pain, like you say. I'd been, and that created a massive wedge. And I was so controlling over that. And I saw it as a betrayal, and all, how women do. I wasn't able to put it in perspective. I think it's just a rampant evil, really, isn't it? It's so common nowadays for men to fall into that, and I'm sure women too. But I just saw it as a betrayal, and I was so hurt by that. I'd allowed it to hurt me, and I
Sure.
put, these it's ridiculous, really, but these programs you can buy, parental control programs and everything. Oh, it didn't work, but I think what that did was really, really damage the relationship. In fact, it was
Hurt
so
your
hard.
trust.
It hurt the trust, and then it was like a switch, because it was like he flipped it back on me, and I'm sure, I don't know what it is, I think just his hurt and his pain, and he started accusing me of being, having unfaithful thoughts and behaving inappropriately around men, and that was so hard because, as British people, we're trained to smile at people. I'm sure in America it's the same, isn't it? You're trained from a very young age to smile at people when you meet them, or just automatically smile. And he was accusing me of, smiling at strangers and things, and to being unfaithful in my heart, and all this. Oh, it was awful. Like, really the biggest pain, the greatest pain, because I never thought about anybody else, and I was not about to be unfaithful. But it was, I think, because I'd created perhaps this climate of distrust, and he was just flipping it back on me. I don't know that's the way I can explain it, really, but it was very painful.
Oh,
It
it
was.
sounds painful. Yeah. So you're so accountable the way you say it, like because you were suspicious or checking his phone and you found things that felt like there were evidence of betrayal. And then he kind of turned it around on you. And the way you say it, it sounds like, I think what I hear you saying is I let suspicion into our marriage. But I must have felt entirely necessary given the things that you found that seemed like evidence to it.
It seemed like evidence, and I was focusing on them, and I was giving it far too much importance. And I was just trying to control. I thought I could control it. That was the problem. I really honestly thought through these parental control things. I thought, I can teach other women how to deal with this, but I wasn't. I was just undermining the trust and the intimacy between us, and it was really, really.
You're so accountable, Emily. The way you tell the story, like you've already reasoned so many things out and examined yourself so thoroughly. It's quite amazing actually to hear you say that, because there's a whole other side of the story to tell, right? Like he was wrong and he did terrible things, and what I hear you saying is this is something 90% or some percentage that was created on your side. Do I have that right?
Yeah, I think I opened a door. I really do think I opened a door.
Yeah.
I don't know really, but I know I'm not responsible for his behavior, but I do think that I let something really nasty in by being so controlling and toxic. So that was really hard for me. And then healing from that. Yeah, it's been hard.
Yeah, I bet. So what happened?
Yes, well, what happened was your podcast. It was just so helpful. It's this podcast because after I was hearing all these women tell their stories and stories about this particular issue, particularly, and there was one thing you said, Laura, that was so helpful to me. You said, I think there's no respectful way to accuse your husband of watching, inappropriate content. There's no respectful way to do it. You can't. It's like, and I thought, because before that, I'd been thinking maybe I can phrase it in a way, or maybe I can kind of work around it, and maybe I can control him. I do honestly think that I thought that I could manage it, But then when you said those words, I thought, no, I can't. This is out of my hands, I'm just making things worse.
Wow.
So,
you must have had a very open heart to hear that.
I was so thankful to you and all these brave women on the podcast who talk about this issue so openly, so vulnerably. And another thing that was really, really helpful was the phrase "shopping for pain," And I thought that puts it on me. Why would I do that? Why would I shop for pain? And just that concept in my mind, like, Emily, why? Yeah. And so I decided to, and the other concept was so helpful. Somebody said, I think you said it, was the fact, like the other woman, if there's another woman in the relationship, you cut off all oxygen to her and then she suffocates. Yes. And then one time you put it in the context of this problem, watching inappropriate content, is when you stop giving that problem oxygen, it starts to disappear. At least in your own mind. Yeah, it's not a problem for you anymore. You can regain the intimacy, the trust, and start to build up the marriage again. So those were the things that were really, really helpful.
Wow. Wow. Those are high-level things you're talking about, Emily. Those are, it's extraordinary to decide to suffocate other content, like to not have it be in your brain, and just to decide to stop shopping for pain. That's extraordinary. That takes a lot of courage, a lot of commitment on your part. So I admire that.
Yeah, it was really, really helpful. So I was listening to the podcast every week and I was so uplifted by them and I was seeing great changes. And I was working on my self-care. I think that's the big piece that I'd sort of left out. So many women do, isn't it? I skip to the relinquishing control and I'd kind of skipped over the self-care because I don't like following lists. I'm not good at lists. And like someone says, do 3 things a day. And I was resisting it. I was not very receptive there.
One more thing to do.
I know. And so I hadn't incorporated that in a very mindful or intentional way. But then again, after hearing podcast after podcast about how fundamental it is, how it is the thing, isn't it, that can transform everything in your own heart and your own marriage, everything, turn things around. So I thought, okay, Emily, you've got to get on this. And I'm not someone that does things by halves. I couldn't do 3 things a day. I have to do everything. I have to do like 100% of my focus now. Yes, is on this. I've always been like that. It's like all or nothing. And so I decided to develop self-care in a more holistic way, in a more mindful way yeah,
Hmm.
to do that better.
So you adopted some self-care practices.
Yeah, I did. And I think just re-engineering my whole life, really. It was like taking care of myself. I had the image of a cake, okay, so the bottom layer of the self-care cake, it is just fundamental self-care, like functional self-care, sleeping enough, eating well, making sure I'm not working too long hours, getting that balance in my life. That was the fundamental, like bottom layer of the cake. And then the middle layer of the cake, it is, the juicy, sweet, sometimes a bit crunchy, just a very creamy, delicious, frivolous fun. That's in the middle of the cake. That's what I really enjoy doing. And then the top of the cake, in my mind, it's shaped like a lighthouse. Um, and on top of the cake, there were some solar panels. And those solar panels are like receptive, and that's like what I call soul care. So I remember somebody on the podcast, they talked about soul care ages ago. So helpful. Self-care, soul care. And so that's, what I do to nourish my soul. So reading the scriptures, prayer, worship, just everything that fills me up. And that's your top down. So and then the frivolous fun, and then the foundational. Yes. Bottom of the cake. So that's what's going to happen.
Wow, you are an overachiever. I can tell from your self-care cake, which
Oh,
sounds delicious.
I needed to do that.
Yeah.
It's been helpful, and I've been able to incorporate that with other skills. The other day it was interesting. I did two skills in one, so I was quite proud of that. But it was something funny. My husband did. He promised that we were going to go out at a certain time, and I got all ready to go out. And I don't like going out. I like to stay at home, and so I'd made the effort. And then I do like going out, but not during the week because I've got my classes I teach. And so if I go out from Monday to Friday, it's like it's an effort, It's an effort. And I didn't want to do it, but I'd agreed and then we'd made a commitment. Okay, we're going out. So that was maybe my first mistake, that I shouldn't have agreed to it when I didn't really want to go. And then he wasn't ready. And so he was playing chess. Oh, it was so hard. And so I would made all this effort to get ready and he wasn't ready. And then he said, oh, it's too late now. And and I was really annoyed. He said, it's too late now. I was like, yes, of course it's too late. You were playing chess. And so I was really fuming, and I know I was taking it out of proportion. But in the same time, I wasn't able really to take a step back and go and self-soothe and do self-care, because then he said, let's go out and do another errand. Okay, you're ready. I'm finally ready. Let's go out and run another errand. And I thought, okay, I better do this because, I'm committed to it. And so it was really funny, the situation that I was fuming and angry, but at the same time, I knew I needed self-care, but I also needed duct tape, because I was fuming. And so I did the duct tape, and then I put my headphones in. And, for me, one of the best things for self-care is music, uplifting music, calming music, different times. And so I had my headphones on, and I wasn't looking at him. So I was really and I said, okay, we're going out. I'm following you, but I wouldn't speak. And it was amazing because, at the same time, I did feel empowered because in a certain way he could see that I was annoyed, but I didn't want to make it an issue and I didn't want to punish him because that's not healthy. But I needed, in a way, to be honest. I couldn't pretend to be, all happy and, oh, yes, pretend that I'd forgotten about it because I hadn't. It was still I was in the midst of it, really. It was a small thing, but I was in the midst of it. And so it was amazing. So I put on my headphones, I was listening to the music, and we got in the car and I was being silent. And then it just passed, it's like a wave, it passed. And so that was really helpful.
Yeah, you
So,
can't help but feel good with the nice music in
yeah,
your ears. And
exactly. And I thought, I'm doing duct tape. And I thought, I love these skills because I don't have to pretend, you know. I
no
don't have to
pretending.
fake a smile. I don't have to be like, oh, yes, whatever. So many times as women, we feel that we just have to be quiet or to put up with things or, to be like a doormat. But I thought, no, I can be honest. He can see that I'm annoyed, but I'm not going to make it into an aggressive thing. I'm not going to say things I regret because I have that, control now. So, well, self-control, finally. Yeah. So,
Yeah. It's so great. And then you didn't owe any apologies afterwards? You weren't trying to get forgiveness or
and it's only really been in the last couple of years that I've been on the skills kind of like completely, because I think for a long while I thought I was doing the skills in a pure way, just for me, not to control him. That's what I thought. But actually, I was secretly using them in a way that I thought could try and influence and control his behavior still.
so was
It's
I. It's about how I started
it's
too.
what I
So
was
yeah, yeah.
thinking.
Yeah.
It was hard, and the big issue for me was the housework. I think for so many women it is, isn't it? And in this country where we live, we're not able to install a dishwasher. Most families now, isn't it, the States, you have a dishwasher. But where we live, the water is so hard, it's so full of minerals and salts that you can't use dishwashers here because the water, it kills dishwashers. So you have to wash the dishes, and if you've got, like us, we're eating all our meals at home, I'm cooking all our meals from scratch, and we both work from home. So it's a lot of dishes,
It's a lot of dishes.
it's a lot of dishes. And early on in our relationship, I said to my husband, because I had this kind of expectation that he would be my equal partner, you know, like you've, I've decided, yeah, I do the washing, no, I do all the cooking, so you can help me with the dishes.
Yeah.
But he just wouldn't. And again, in this culture, men are not really expected to do housework in the same way. And to be honest, I blame the mothers. I
Yeah.
really do. I blame them because mothers, they do in this culture. They'll treat their sons in a different way. Sons will be weighted on hands and foot and not be expected to do any help around the house. But daughters will be like the dog's bodies who'll do all the work.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's the culture of double standards really. And in his family, his mother was a housewife and his father was a very busy working man who was out of the house all day working. And so his mother did do everything, that was just normal. And then she brought up her sons to be waited on. And her daughter, an older daughter, to help out. And so that was the same, kind of panorama or the same model. And so I've tried and tried and tried and tried for many, many years. I used the skills to get him to help with the washing up, but he won't. It's not that he won't completely. If I really like him, he'll get round to it. But the stress on the relationship, it's just so hard. It's not worth it in a way. I'd rather do them myself rather than having to push him and nag him and have all that tension every day. It's just too much. So when we first got together, no, when we first got married, he said, "Oh, Emily, why don't we have a maid?" Because that's what people do in this culture. They get a maid, and it's not too expensive, and somebody can come in and do all the cooking and all the cleaning and all the washing up, and people do that quite a lot. But I really don't like that. I just don't feel. I don't like having other people in my home. I just feel really kind of invaded. And because we both work from home, and often we're working in pajamas and stuff, well, pajama bottoms,
Yes,
pajama
pajama
pants. Yes,
bottoms. Absolutely.
yes.
You're here.
Always have, a nice presentable top for mine because
Yes.
I'm working in front of the camera.
On Zoom. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. And he's working from home as well. So having somebody come into our home while we're both working from home and, judge us for being in our pajamas and I just can't deal with it. I really, really don't like the idea of having somebody coming in cleaning for us.
We
I know
value
we
your
feel
privacy. Yeah.
we really do. And anyway, so I said to him, I don't feel comfortable with that. I don't want to do that. So what I decided when I thought, okay, Emily, you've got to fix this because things are not balanced, in your own heart. Things are not balanced and you've got this constant struggle and things are not working. You've got to make a change. So I thought, right, I'm going to all in with the skills. I'm going to take responsibility and do what I want to do and not push him anymore. And if he wants to come and help, he'll help. So I decided to redesign my work schedule so that I would have more time to do the housework. And I actually quite like doing the housework. And
You like doing the housework. Okay.
honestly, because I have such a high focus and very high level of concentration job. My job is so intense and sometimes a bit stressful that actually having a bit of downtime, then I can just relax my mind, do a bit of sweeping, washing. It's not a lot. We've got a small apartment, 2 bedrooms, not a lot to clean, to be honest. So I like that, and I put my music on, and I combine it with self-care. and I lift myself up, and I'm able to nourish my soul while I'm doing the housework, the cleaning.
Yeah.
And I do enjoy it. If I've got enough time to do it, I enjoy it, you know.
This is,
Um,
I love this. This is a great example of you being the expert on your life and figuring out how to make the skills work for you, right? Like if it didn't fit to continue to try to get him to share it and it didn't fit to hire someone, but you found a way to make it feel like self-care, like, which is, I never thought I'd say that. I get it. I get that your desire was to have your space be, secluded and private and you found a way to make it work. So that's great.
And that transforms everything, because finally I wasn't using the skills to push him anymore, and I wasn't pushing him at all anymore. I was just, every time we come, I mean, I'm always very appreciative. And if he wants to help out, I'm really, oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I'm receiving the help. But I'm not doing it in a way to encourage him or manipulate him anymore. I'm not trying to push him. And that has
Oh,
transformed everything, everything.
it's
That's been the
great.
big point. Yeah.
So good,
Yeah.
Emily. What a great transformation. Yeah. As soon as you totally let that go. Yeah. And then sometimes he comes and helps but you're not attached anymore. So
Exactly. And I honestly don't mind doing it. I quite enjoy doing it. And as I say, my work has become more and more stressful as the years go on, that it's nice to have a little break. Yes. Break from that. So it's yeah, that's great.
yeah,
Mm.
so great.
Mm.
So what's your marriage like now?
Mm. It's wonderful. It's so affectionate. He's so kind, lots of hugs. He'll come into the kitchen when I'm doing whatever housework and come to receive a hug, He's coming to get his hug. It's so cute, coming to get a kiss. And he's really warm and light and funny, and dancing, a lot of dancing in the kitchen. He's comes to join me when I'm listening to music. He's and the thing that really touches me the most is that he looks at me with love now. He looks at me, really, I mean, I'm going to cry. I think it's so many years I used to say to him, look at me, look at me. And I speak in Spanish, mírame, because I was like craving his attention, I just wanted to receive his love. I wanted to drink it in. And I really knew that I needed to do that through his gaze. I wanted him to look at me with love. And that's the line from Avatar, which is a bit cheesy, but he says to the other blue person, he says, "I see you," you know. And I was like, wow, I want to be seen, it's my heart's desire. I want to be seen. I want to feel that I'm loved. I knew that he loved me, but I want to feel it, I want to have that kind of loving gaze on me. And he does it all the time now. So it's really beautiful.
Oh my gosh, that is beautiful. And who doesn't want that? I love your vulnerability, just saying, this is what I want. I want to be seen. And now you've created that. That's what you have in your marriage. And wasn't always that way. And I give you all the credit.
Well, I give you so much thanks, Laura. Thank you for your encouragement. Thank you for all your help. I couldn't have done it without you, your community. I mean, I know I've never been in the group, but just the podcast and your book, and Almighty God as well helped me more than everybody. It's just been such a blessing. So helpful.
Oh, I love that. It is so great. And and you sound happy and joyful and just kind of filled up. What is your tip for somebody who's been where you are, where there's just this, there's a lot of stress and frustration and the trust has gone missing, or there's just, enormous amounts of pressure
Mm.
in the marriage. And she wants what you have now, where you feel so seen. What's your tip for her? What should she do?
Yeah, I would encourage her, I think, to experiment with this to the skills, and to try them out. And, that even if she does them badly at first, I was thinking that earlier, even if you do them badly or inefficiently or incompletely, they still really help, they're just amazing. Like, there's no negative side effects. There's no risk. I would say, just try it, even if it's for a couple of weeks. Just give it a go, if you're open to it. And I think I'd probably say that she should, if she can, get a coach. Because I was never able to, because we weren't able to. But I think it would have been much better and much faster. Wouldn't have taken me 10 years. Yes, it would have been much faster if I would a coach. Yes.
Well, I love your devotion to the skills, regardless that you didn't have a coach, but you're an overachiever, right? So you doubled down on them. So you made them work for you. You got great results, which I admire so much. I know they can be tricky to do by yourself. So I think that's pretty great. What do you think you would say to Emily if you could go back in time and tell her what you know now?
I know exactly what I say to Emily. Don't be like your mother. Yes. It's just that parallel. And I know I don't want to be disrespectful of my mother, but I mean, you don't know her, so yeah. It's it was interesting. Being on the receiving end of control was the most eye-opening thing, because, for example, when I'm with my mother, like with everybody else, you can probably tell I'm quite an open, friendly person, quite gregarious, smiley. But when I'm with my mother, because she's always kind of belittling me or controlling me or manipulating me, I close up. I totally close up, and I don't talk, and I talk as little as possible. I'm just protecting myself. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this must be like what so many men do in a marriage, isn't it? They just close up. I'm like, oh wow, that's what I did. I closed up with my mother, sadly, because it was just so hard. So I think I'd probably use that analogy on myself to help me see that you need to change. You need to not change, but get help, and also show myself maybe some grace, because I was always so self-critical. I knew I was doing wrong, so I needed some skills, some help, some encouragement. I think that would have been nice. Yeah.
It's such a great like metaphor, or great, I guess, mirroring, right? To see how closed up you are around your mom, and how and that's not the response you want from none of us wants that response from our husbands. And yeah, and then your story is such a great illustration of how you can have the desire to stop controlling, but it's not always so easy to get yourself to do it, but you got yourself to do it. You started the self-care in the evenings with, reading yourself, the Bible verses, and soothing yourself instead of asking him to. Yeah, and then you made your layer cake, your amazing, delicious layer cake of self-care. And your paper has become nice and shiny and delightful.
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's really wonderful. Congratulations. I want to give you my best wife award, because absolutely you deserve this. You've done a tremendous job creating intimacy and connection, and like choosing your faith over your fear. Which it takes so much courage to do. And I see you as quite courageous. So congratulations, Emily.
Oh, bless you. Thank you so much, Laura. I really, really appreciate your encouragement, your example. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Well done. And great job sharing your whole story with us today. It's quite an inspiring one, and lots of twists and turns, and just great to see you feeling so empowered and knowing what to do, how to keep your marriage shiny and amazing.
Thank you so much, Laura. And if you permit me, I have something I wanted to share with you, if you allow me.
Yes, absolutely. Please do.
Secret. It's a secret. But you can share it with us, of course. I have a confession. I created a name for you in my mind. It's I don't know if you've seen this before. It's you've probably been told this before. It's the Shrew Whisperer. And I'm one of your 10 shrews, because I've learned from you so much. And I started to think about that, and I thought, I don't like it in a way, because in a way, shrew, it's so negative, isn't it? So okay, no, I thought, Emily, got to change this. Not right, shrew whisperer. So I thought of other images, because I thought, I love the word whisperer, because that's this is what, Laura, I so appreciate from your work, that you're able to take people like me, that were maybe not people like me, but people who are very closed, isn't it? people who perhaps don't appreciate the message, but then straddle that gap, and to be a person who can know to straddle worlds, isn't it? Different worldviews, and say, I came from, you said, a kind of more feminist background, and I was able to transform it. The way that you're able to your message, the way that you're able to communicate it in such a beautiful way. And then, so I started to think more, and I thought, no, Emily, the word shrew, it's not right. So I got another image in my mind, which was a wild stallion. So, okay, I'm not sure if this is quite right yet, because, it's a very masculine image. I thought, I have a wild stallion masculine image, though. But then I thought maybe it is right, because so many generations of women, we've been pushed into that masculine role, haven't we? We've been pushed down an alley where we're supposed to be like, superwoman, and all the images we see in the films of Hollywood, like it's the masculine energy in a female, like an improbably perfect female body, isn't it? And so I transform the image in my mind, and so it's the word I've got now. It's wild Mustang whisperer. That's the image. And then I got another, image in my mind of, all these wonderfully free, gentled Mustang mares, or women who have able to take that fire inside them and then gallop forward into happiness. So I want to thank you for that, Laura. So I'm going to send it you written down, because it's written down much better. So yes.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, Emily. I love, the wild Mustang whisperer.
Wild Mustang whisperer, that's right. It's all this, like, because I got this image in my mind of so many women who are suffering, and they've got that kind of wild stallion inside them, and they know that all this kind of powerful masculine energy at them, and they know that it's repelling men. They're not able to find a man because they're so kind of strong and independent, and and all the rest of it. And so I think there's so many women who are like feeling very lost and hopeless, that they'll never find a mate because of this kind of strong masculine energy. And that's what's been so helpful for me, from learning from you, how to use our feminine energy, and the fact that we don't have to transform ourselves into a My Little Pony version of ourselves, that we don't have to dumb ourselves down or appear like, whatever. We can have the same strong spirit, but when we learn to tame it, when we learn to gentle ourselves and become attractive and magnetic, that's when we can really gallop into happiness. So that's I wanted to share with you.
I love it. And I love the part in this metaphor where we're not, My Little Pony is great. I would just say it. Like, we don't have to become less than we are, or dumb down, or be doormats, or not be the spark plugs that we are in the world. But we get to just feel loved and adored and seen. And for being feminine.
Exactly, the feminine part. Because before coming to you, and during that time when I was really searching, coming out of the cult and reading all these different books, I read some really helpful books. Cognitive behavioral therapy, nonviolent communication, self-compassion, really, really helpful stuff. Got a lot from that. But I must say, Laura, your work, your message, these skills, they're so much more powerful, so much more helpful. And I was trying to think, why are they so much more helpful? And I realized that I thought, because for women, you're helping us to harness the power of feminine energy. That's what I didn't get from any of those other books. And the other thing that I've got from you, from your work, from which I didn't get from anything else, was the hope, the feeling that you can have hope. Because when you give up control, sometimes you can feel so hopeless and powerless, and that can be such a difficult place. I have a brother who suffers from alcoholism, and my mum sent, it's for relatives of alcoholics. But the hardest thing I have is like, we are powerless of the person's drinking. And I hate feeling powerless. It's my worst feeling, as a control freak, And so what I love about your work is that we're not powerless, that we can have a positive impact on those around us through the spouse fulfilling prophecies or stepdaughter fulfilling prophecies or student fulfilling prophecies like I have now. And it's just so powerful. So thank you, Laura. That's been really, really helpful.
Oh, great to hear. Great to hear. I love it. I love it. So inspiring, Emily. You're great.
Thank you. I'm so glad to have the chance to talk with you. That's why we put it off for so long, but it's been really encouraging.
Well, this is a very big contribution to ending world divorce that you've come on and told your story today. So I couldn't be more grateful to you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's been a blessing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Great job. Great job, Emily.
Thank you, Lord. Such a pleasure.
You've been with me here every week learning the secrets that happy wives know. So I want to invite you to come practice them in person with me at the Adored Wife Weekend. It's 3 days in Anaheim, California with me, our coaches, and a whole room full of women just like you. We're going to laugh until it hurts. We're going to dance to the 80s, and we're going to put these skills to work live. Your marriage is going to feel it. October 9th through the 11th, register right now at adoredwifeweekend.com and come practice with us. I'll save you a seat. So your try it tonight takeaway is putting on some duct tape, not the strong sticky kind in your junk drawer, just the metaphorical kind. Remember when Emily got all ready to go out and then her husband decided it was too late because he'd been busy playing chess? She was annoyed, really annoyed. Who wouldn't be, right? I would be too. She could feel herself getting ready to launch into an argument, and instead, she reached for her duct tape. She kept her words to herself, popped in her headphones, turned on some music, and let herself calm down. She didn't have to fake a smile or pretend everything was fine. She just gave herself a little time before she said something she'd regret. And did you hear what happened? The anger passed over her like a wave. No blow up, no groveling apology afterwards. And as she put it, I love these skills because I don't have to pretend. So freeing, right? So here's your experiment. The next time you feel yourself gearing up for an argument, maybe saying something in anger, what if you grabbed the duct tape and did something to help you feel a little better while the anger passes? Maybe it's music or a walk or making yourself a cup of tea. Give yourself the gift of space between your reaction and your response. And you might find your feelings pass much faster than you expected. And like Emily, it might just save you from having to make an apology later. Are you ready to try it? Yes? Okay. Then go, go, go.